We didn't just suddenly wake up one morning and we had the Xbox. We didn't wake up one morning and the internet was there. You know? How did we get there? That's what you want to know about history for.
The way the early telegraph stuff worked was they would have people walk into the counter and they're leaving all these messages, handwritten messages, and someone goes over to the punch and they, with 2 fingers, punch a tape that's got the message, and then the guy in the back room of the office puts a little header on it. I've seen pictures of there's a rack with the tapes hanging from them, like dog leashes on a coat rack. And they tape them all together, and they put them into readers, and they're all transmitted over to some central routing place. And then they'll look at the numbers and they'll say, oh, this one, it's got the funny little codes that says OAK for Oakland. So then they would put the tape in the right reader and they'd route. So they do manual routing. So yeah, there's hardly any new things. I'm sure these guys were sending stuff, not for customer consumption. Because we know, because I have a lot of teletype in Western Union documentation and machinery. And we know that they inserted inter-office messaging in the stream. There's meta messages in the stream. How could they not chat?
Science fiction fandom going back to the 30s, people would use Mimeo or Ditto to publish fanzines, to publish their own newsletters with reports of conventions they went to, or book reviews, or just what's happening in their life, to talk to other people who are similar, who have similar interests, but might not be around them. One of the few really nerdy science fiction fans in your school, well, there's not many other people you can talk to, but if you find that there are people somewhere else that you can talk to, and you subscribe to their fanzine, and then you start writing letters of comment back to it, and then you decide you want to start publishing your own because you've got a lot to say, and it's just this innate human need to form communities and to find other people with your interests.
Most of the real activity in all of this, of course, occurred BC, before computers. It started out as the telegraph operators they were on duty on Christmas Eve over the holiday. They had nothing to do. Nobody was sending a telegram out particularly. So they made up these pictures to send to each other from one telegraph operator to another around the country or around the world. And they sent them to each other. And that was teletype in those days. And eventually the radio amateurs were authorized to use teletype on the air. And so we started typing to each other. And of course, that meant we got a teletype machine to begin with, which meant that we probably had a thing that would punch tape and read tape. And so we found out that these telegraph guys who had been sending pictures for years before we ever got into it had tapes around in their lockers, and God, they were buried. I had them dig them out. I went around and found guys that had them, and they would give them to me. I would get the tapes, the originals, and once we got it, we could send it to any other radio amateur anywhere in the world. So it was a kind of an exclusive group, really. It wasn't the average CB operator or anything like that. Right. Because we had to hook up a machine and figure out how to hook it up to our radio and build the circuits to convert the radio signal to the machine signal and vice versa. Every time you sent one, there were 20 guys out there all punching tapes of it as they received it. And they would then go on the air the next day and talk to their other friends and send them to them, and it went on and on. So it just grew like topsy. The computers have basically wiped it out, you might say. I mean, it's no big turn on for a young kid today. A young kid, I don't know how they would get interested in it. They'd say, so what? Hell, I can do blah, blah, blah with a computer. So that time is gone.
I would dial up and I'd be talking to other people online, but not really talking. I'd be typing and leave the messages, and then later I can read more messages, and they all go, oh, okay, and they look like you've got some sort of disease or something.
I say it's kind of like America Online, but really scaled down, And it's not an easy thing to explain.
With this program you'd have on your computer, you'd dial a number, and you'd enter your name and password, and it would say hello, and then you could go to the messages, and you could read these messages. And then you could add one. And if you waited long enough, and I had to say months, other people would have called in and left messages, and after a few months, you have a conversation. And they're like, why? They're all in their early 20s, and it's like, well, that's stupid. I mean, and it is stupid. It was unbelievably stupid.
I try telling it to people now. I'm like, imagine AIM is down, and all of your buddies are gone. Your buddy list is empty, and you can't talk to anybody. And there's no email. And people don't quite get how bad that would be.
A lot of inventions aren't, an invention where one person comes up with an idea and goes off and builds it. A lot of inventions are where there's some idea that's becoming current. The technology's gotten up to a point where it's going to support it. A lot of people know there's a problem. A lot of people are working on it in parallel. A couple of them will come up with solutions. One of them will be able to get commercial success out of it. And, so Thomas Edison's the one we know as the inventor of the light bulb. The other people who were working on it at the same time don't get remembered.